When I first met Daniel Rhodes, I thought I had stumbled into the rare kind of luck that people only dream of. I was 22, fresh out of college with a degree in marketing and no clue how to break into the world I wanted to belong to. My classmates were chasing corporate internships, grinding through unpaid hours at agencies, or giving up entirely and drifting into jobs at coffee shops and retail chains. I was stubborn. I wanted something bigger. Daniel Rhodes was bigger. He wasn't a household name, but in the city, everyone in the startup and creative scene knew him. He had a reputation for being fearless, magnetic, and above all, successful. He ran a boutique agency that somehow managed to land clients far above its weight class. Fortune 500 companies that trusted his scrappy little team with campaigns worth millions. I met him at a networking event that I almost didn't attend. My stomach was twisted in knots the whole time, my cheap blazer too tight around my shoulders, and my introduction rehearsed so many times in my head it came out mechanical. But Daniel didn't treat me like I was a nervous nobody. He looked me dead in the eye, shook my hand firmly, and said, "I like your energy." That was it. That was the moment. A week later, I was sitting in his office, an industrial loft filled with exposed brick, neon signs, and the buzz of ambition. He didn't hire me through a formal process. He didn't even ask for my resume. Instead, he leaned back in his chair, steepled his fingers, and said, "You want in? Prove yourself. I'll give you 3 months. No pay. You show me you can. Hang, and I'll make you part of the team." It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't even fair. But I said yes, because when you're young and desperate for a break, you'll swallow anything that looks like opportunity. And working under Daniel felt like electricity. He was charismatic in a way that made people lean in when he spoke. He could turn a bland presentation into a story that felt like a blockbuster movie. He dressed sharp but not stiff, always in crisp shirts with sleeves rolled to his elbows, like he was ready to fight or paint or build something with his bare hands. Most of all, he had vision. He could walk into a failing brand and see what no one else could, the angle, the narrative, the thing that would make people pay attention again. And I wanted to learn every scrap of that. So I became his shadow. I carried his coffee. I stayed late and picked up the pieces when he left the office after midnight. I studied his old campaigns like scripture. When he threw me scraps of real work, a pitch deck here, a client call there, I devoured them. And slowly, he started to notice that by the end of my trial period, he called me into his office, tossed a signed contract onto the desk, and smirked, "Congratulations, you're in." I floated out of that office. I called my mom, my dad, my best friend, anyone who would listen. I told them I was working under Daniel Rhodes. I told them this was it, the start of everything. And for a while, it was. Daniel became more than my boss. He became my mentor. He'd bring me into meetings and introduce me as his protege. He'd tell clients, "This kid is sharp. Watch him." He gave me responsibilities that made my heart race. Full campaigns, budgets, entire accounts that I knew most people my age wouldn't even touch for years. I lived for his approval. And when he praised me, when he clapped me on the back and said, "That's how it's done," it felt like a drug. But there were cracks, even then. Times when he'd make me take the fall for a mistake he clearly made. Times when he'd hog the spotlight and conveniently forget to mention my name in front of clients. Times when I caught him using my ideas and passing them off as his own. I ignored them because I told myself it was part of the game. Because I believed he was grooming me for something bigger. Because I believed in him. And because I didn't know then what I know now, that Daniel Rhodes wasn't building me up to stand beside him. He was building me up to use me. And when I had finally given him everything he needed, he would vanish. But back then, I was blind. And I thought I had found a hero. Asterisk, by my second year working under Daniel, I had gone from unpaid intern to account manager with a salary that made my parents finally stop worrying about me. I had my own clients, my own office space, albeit just a glass cubicle tucked in the corner, and a growing reputation. But the truth was, everything I achieved was tied to him. He knew how to work me like a chess piece. He put me in front of clients when he wanted to appear generous, then stepped in at the last second to save a pitch with his charm. He let me do the heavy lifting behind campaigns, then took the stage when they succeeded, and still, I told myself it was worth it, because doors were opening. People in the industry started recognizing me by name. I got invited to panels, asked to guest lecture at universities, even offered jobs by competitors. Every time, I stayed loyal. When people asked me why, I'd say, because Daniel believed in me first. I owe him everything. And I meant it. There were nights when I'd stay in the office long after everyone left, grinding on projects, staring out at the city lights and thinking, this is it. This is how I'll make my mark. That I thought Daniel and I were building something together, but slowly, the cracks in his mentorship widened into chasms that I started noticing patterns. Clients who had once been ours slowly shifted into being his. Projects where I had done 90% of the work would be presented to the world as Daniel's vision. Whenever something went wrong, he'd find a way to pin it on me. The first time it happened, I swallowed it. The second time, I bit my tongue. The third time, I started wondering if maybe I wasn't his protege after all. Maybe I was just useful. And then came the campaign that changed everything. It was for a massive lifestyle brand, the kind of client every agency dreamed of. They had fired their previous team after a disastrous product launch and needed a full rebrand in 6 months. It was high stakes, high budget, and high pressure. Daniel handed the project to me. Completely. You're ready, he said, clapping me on the shoulder. This one's all you. Don't screw it up. I worked like a man possessed. I barely slept. I lived off takeout and coffee. I pushed my team harder than I should have, but they followed me because they believed in me. I poured everything I had into that campaign. Every skill Daniel had taught me, every instinct I'd sharpened under his watch, and it worked. The campaign was a success. No, it was more than that. It went viral. The brand sales skyrocketed. Their image flipped from outdated to cutting edge overnight. Industry magazines ran cover stories about it. Awards started rolling in, but when the brand CEO gave a speech at the launch gala, he didn't thank me, he thanked Daniel. Rhodes and Daniel? He stood there, smiling that easy, magnetic smile, shaking hands, taking pictures, as if he had been the mastermind all along. He didn't correct the CEO. He didn't pull me onto the stage. He let me stand in the shadows, holding a champagne glass I didn't even want to drink, while everyone congratulated him. That was the night I realized something. Daniel wasn't building me up to be his partner. He was using me to build his empire higher, while I broke my back at the foundation. And when he no longer needed me, I had this sinking feeling he'd leave me there, buried in the rubble. That I didn't know how soon that day would come, but it was closer than I thought. Asterisk after the gala, things changed. Not immediately. Daniel still dropped by my desk with his trademark grin, still called me kiddo, still acted like my biggest supporter. But beneath it, I could feel the shift. He stopped looping me into high-level meetings. He started keeping his laptop with him at all times, no longer leaving it open on his desk like before. His phone, once casually left face up during lunches, was always flipped over, locked, or shoved deep in his pocket. I noticed, and I told myself maybe he was just stressed. Maybe the success of the campaign had drawn extra scrutiny, extra pressure. But late at night, when the office was quiet and my brain had nothing to distract itself with, I replayed every detail. He wasn't preparing me for the next step. He was shutting me out. Then one Monday morning, I walked into the office, and Daniel wasn't there. His desk was empty. His glass office, usually cluttered with papers and coffee mugs, was spotless. His nameplate was gone.